Welcome to Trade.com. This is John. This report is for the 20th now of July. And well, we dipped here on the ES to the 50%. That was not a surprise. We had the crossover from Magenta and that, and we started to have the rise of MBI White. More importantly, you had your breakaway here. Not a dramatic DOC spread kind of configuration. That actually took place a little further back. It took a while before this, we went kind of parallel between the two. And then once it started to open up, that's when we started to see the declining value in it. And it was clear from the NASDAQ standpoint. We were expecting to move to the 0%. And that's exactly what we got. So low went down to 28.40. And it was right about there for the 0%. So that filled that one right in, bouncing off that right now. And that was the expectation from the MBI White lead. So all things being equal, it did exactly what it was supposed to do. Nothing too special. Oil continuing its climb. They don't care anymore. And you can see with the Iran situation, it's a quagmire. They're just going to be firing missiles back and forth. There's no, until you put some guy in front of another guy to stop him from doing a thing, it's going to continue. So, that situation is it. Now, the question becomes really, how long will it take some of these countries to bypass that Strait of Hormuz, and that literally becomes the primary question. And how much of that had they already started from months ago, or do they just expect it to go back to normal? You know, the rest of the world's going to feel those effects. It's going to be mostly Europe and everywhere else because the U.S. is now an exporter, so not really a major draw, except for the fact that oil prices are ridiculously high. So Euro's still excited because they see that they think that Ukraine is winning. Crazy as that is. Gold holding at the lows. It's going to be pretty tough to keep driving it lower at this particular point. The CPI numbers that came in were nice, but this is not going to last. And even the Fed understands that that was just temporary. Now, the only question, it's not temporary though, if it's reporting a more systemic problem with economic growth. That's the one that I think is more problematic and more catching for everyone else, because that's a deflationary configuration, even with higher prices of oil and things like that. That's an unraveling, and that's something that everyone has to pay attention to. Nothing indicating it as of yet, but with the suspect nature of the AI build being the only real source of GDP growth, one has to wonder. So we'll be really looking closely at that. And then you throw in the immigration situation where you've had such a drop. You're seeing a major recalibration in big cities for rents and things like that, which is going to save consumers quite a bit, but kind of throws a little bit of turmoil. Bitcoin holding at 23%. I think that you've lost all of your short-term buyers, even modest speculators that need something that would drive it. Just don't have anything at this particular point. The market's still yielding far better by the ranges. So from not just Friday, but before that, the sell that came through, hit the lows, fought back, came back, retested them, and here you can see post-market here back over the 23%. And it's all congruent, orange under green, all those things work. So nothing wrong with that. You're gonna have to get positive shakeout, but that's 50K. From a 5K standpoint, well, we'll see in a second what the current move is, but intraday, it's so beautiful. These little narrow windows where it look like there might be a breakout, unable to sustain anything. Once that MBI White pops up, you're in trouble there, and it's just a matter of, are you ready to convert on a dip back below the 23? And sure enough, yes, and pretty good range from there, 75.11 all the way to 91. So when the span between the 0 and the 23% is over 20 points. It's a good, really good risk to reward ratio at that point. You're going to take that every day of the week. And then the move back above was right here where we turned around, crossed it, and followed that trend beautifully. And that went all the way from the 74.80 range all the way to 75.34, so another 50 plus points on that one. And then it just went the other direction all the way. Well, wasn't quite all the way back because you went from the 75.30s only to 75. So yeah, another 30 in there. Then we had a little bit of up and down action going between before we ended up with another beautiful short at the same 75.30 range. And that one went all the way across. was just really nice. There's another way to describe it. For all the complaining that people do about lower volume or this and that, that was a pretty good, decent Friday. Here we are in the Asian session was nothing, but the European session is positive at this particular stage. So um, all in all, just no real complaints about what's happening. I think it's all very orderly, despite the fact that you've got some really major uncertainty concerns and no real answers as to how they're going to be dealt with at this particular stage. So everyone's just sort of like, got blinders on and just keep going forward. They don't know what else to do otherwise because you don't have a whole lot of alternatives given the current dynamic. And until we get some kind of significant readings, at least from data that tell otherwise, you're still net to the plus side on the view of it. So crazy as that is, I mean, and the reason we would say that is from the weekly, so it's gotten soft, but it's not strong enough yet. We're right at the edge of it, though. I mean, 859, I usually over 8.5, I start thinking, okay, you got a potential, but you got rising gold at the same time. So that tends to, want to sustain things. The week shakeout, problematic, but, has it gone negative? No, 3. So at 3, from a weekly standpoint, I'm not freaked out yet, but we keep watching it, and since most of it trading is intraday anyway, I'm not too concerned about it. But broadly, we see exactly what's taking place, and it's not all that traumatizing. So we'll just keep playing it day by day and go with it as it is. But the ranges are beautiful, so keep trading it. Have a good one. Trade well. Anything relevant, I'll put in the team chat.